There was a moment when the entire world stopped and watched him. The lights at Anfield burned brighter than ever. The crowd roared his name like it meant something more than football. And in that split second as he cut inside, left foot loaded, you already knew what was coming. Top corner. No hesitation. No doubt. Mohamed Salah wasn't just scoring goals anymore. He was inevitable. But what if I told you that this same player, the one defenders fear, the one fans worship, the one who carries a nation on his back, was once just a skinny kid from a place nobody was watching, long before the stadiums, before the fame, before the millions chanting his name? There was a small village in Egypt, Nagrig. No cameras, no spotlight, no shortcuts, just dust, silence, and a dream that felt impossibly far away. Salah didn't grow up surrounded by opportunity. He grew up surrounded by distance, because every single day he had to travel hours just for a chance to play football. Not minutes, hours. Multiple buses, long roads, endless waiting. 4, sometimes 5 hours just to get to training. And then 4, sometimes 5 hours to get back home. Think about that. While other kids were resting, studying, or just living normal lives, he was sacrificing everything for something that didn't even guarantee success. He would leave early in the morning and come back late at night, exhausted, alone, but never complaining. Because deep down, he knew something most people don't understand. That if you want something badly enough, you don't measure the cost, but talent alone wasn't enough. Because in those early days, Salah didn't look like a future superstar. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the biggest. He wasn't even the most impressive at first glance. To many, he was just another kid trying his luck. And in football, that's not enough. There are thousands of players chasing the same dream. Most of them disappear, quietly, without anyone noticing. And for a long time, it looked like Salah might be one of them, because while others stood out physically, he had to rely on something else. Speed, instinct, relentless movement. But even that wasn't always enough to convince people. He was overlooked, doubted, sometimes ignored completely. And yet, he kept showing up every single day. Same journey, same sacrifice, same belief. Eventually, opportunity came. A small one. Not glamorous, not life-changing, but enough. He joined El Mokaloun SC, a modest club in Egypt. No big headlines, no global attention, just a chance to prove he belonged. And slowly, something started to change. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily, game by game. He became sharper, faster, more dangerous. Defenders started noticing him, then coaches, then people who mattered. And that's when it happened. The moment that changes everything, but doesn't look like it at first. A move to Europe, to FC Basel. For most players, that's the dream, the breakthrough, the beginning of everything. But for Salah, it was something else entirely. Because moving to Europe wasn't just about football. It meant leaving everything behind. His home, his culture, his comfort, thrown into a completely different world. New language, new expectations, new pressure, and no guarantee he would survive it. At Basel, the pace was faster, the game was tougher, the margin for error smaller than ever. This wasn't Egypt anymore. This was where careers were made, or destroyed. And at first, you could see it. The hesitation, the adjustment, the moments where he looked just slightly out of place. But then, something clicked. It always does. For players who refuse to break, he adapted. Quickly, his speed became a weapon. His movement became unpredictable. His confidence started to grow. And suddenly, he wasn't just surviving in Europe. He was causing problems. Big uns. Especially for teams that didn't expect him. And then came the night. That changed everything. A Champions League game against one of the biggest clubs in the world. Chelsea FC. Nobody expected much. Not from Basel. And definitely not from Salah. But football has a way of exposing the truth. And that night, Salah didn't just play. He announced himself. Speed, precision, fearlessness. He tore through a defense full of stars like he belonged there, like he had always belonged there. And suddenly, people started paying attention. Not just scouts, not just coaches, but the world. Because now, this wasn't just a kid from Egypt anymore. This was a problem. A real one. Offers started coming in. Bigger clubs, bigger stages, bigger expectations. And eventually, the move happened. The one every young player dreams about. The one that's supposed to mean you've made it. A transfer to Chelsea, the Premier League, the biggest stage, the moment where everything changes. But here's the thing about dreams. Nobody tells you what comes after. Because sometimes, getting there is only the beginning of something much harder. Salah arrived in England with hope, with belief, with everything he had worked for finally within reach. But what he didn't know was that this moment, this dream move, was about to test him in ways he had never experienced before. Because what looked like the start of his rise was actually the start of everything falling apart. When Mohamed Salah arrived in England, everything looked perfect. The badge, the stadium, the league. Chelsea FC wasn't just any club, it was Times, the Times Club. The kind of place where careers are made, where stars become legends. And for Salah, this was supposed to be the moment, the reward for every sacrifice, every long journey, every hour spent chasing something no one else could see. But football doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care how far you've come. It only cares about one thing, what you can do right now. And at Chelsea, Salah didn't fit. Not immediately, not naturally, not the way he needed to. Because standing on the sidelines, watching everything unfold, was a man who had already made up his mind. José Mourinho, a manager known for winning, for control, for trusting only what he believed in. And Salah wasn't part of that vision. Minutes were rare, opportunities even rarer. Game after game, he sat, watching, waiting, hoping, but nothing changed. And when he times did times play, it wasn't enough. A missed chance here, a quiet performance there. Small moments that slowly built a bigger narrative. Not good enough, not ready, not Chelsea level. The Premier League is ruthless. It doesn't wait for you to adapt. It doesn't give you time to grow. If you don't perform, you disappear. And Salah was disappearing. The media noticed. Of course they did. They always do. Headlines started forming. Chelsea flop. Another failed signing. Not built for this level. The same player who had lit up Europe with Basel was now being questioned, doubted, written off. And the hardest part? It wasn't the criticism. It was the silence. No belief. No backing. No real chance to prove himself. Just a quiet understanding that he didn't belong there anymore. Confidence is a fragile thing. You don't lose it all at once. You lose it slowly, moment by moment, game by game, until one day, you don't recognize yourself anymore. Salah had gone from fearless to hesitant, from explosive to unsure. Every touch felt heavier. Every decision felt delayed. And deep down, a question started forming, one he couldn't ignore. Am I actually good enough? Because this wasn't Egypt anymore. This wasn't Basel. This was the highest level. And right now, he wasn't surviving it. Eventually, the decision came. Not dramatic, not emotional, just inevitable. A lone move. Out. Away from Chelsea. Away from the pressure. Away from the place where his dream had started to crumble. He joined ACF Fiorentina. A fresh start. A different league. A chance to breathe again. And at first, you could see the difference. The freedom. The movement. The spark. It started to come back. Not fully, but enough to remind people of who he was. But still, something wasn't right. Because this wasn't the plan. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to leave England like this. He wasn't supposed to be rebuilding when he was meant to be rising. Then came another move. Another reset. To AS Roma. Another chance to prove that Chelsea had made a mistake. And this time, something changed. Not just in his game, but in his mind. At Roma, Salah stopped trying to prove people wrong and started trying to prove himself right. He played faster, sharper, more direct. Goals started coming. Assists followed. Performances improved. Numbers started to speak for him. But even then, the doubt never fully left. Because once the world labels you, that label sticks. Chelsea reject. Not Premier League quality. Good, but not great. And no matter how well he played in Italy, there was always that voice. That reminder of where he failed. Because deep down, he knew the truth. He hadn't conquered the biggest stage. He hadn't proven himself where it mattered most. And that's what made it worse. Because success in Rome still felt incomplete. Still felt temporary. Still felt like something was missing. But here's the thing about pressure. It either breaks you or rebuilds you into something stronger. And Salah was changing. Quietly, subtly, but completely. Because every doubt, every rejection, every moment he was overlooked was doing something to him. Something deeper than football. It was forcing him to evolve. But the world didn't see that. Not yet. To them, he was still just another player who failed at Chelsea. Another talent who couldn't handle the Premier League. Another story that had already been written. And that's what made it dangerous. Because when the world thinks they understand you, that's when you have the chance to shock them. Salah was no longer chasing validation. He was building something else. Something quieter. Something stronger. Something far more dangerous than raw talent. Belief. And soon, he was about to return to the very place that rejected him. Not as the same player. Not with the same doubts. But as someone ready to rewrite everything. Because what the world saw as failure was actually preparation for something they never saw coming. By the time Mohamed Salah left Italy, he wasn't the same player anymore. Not the one who arrived at Chelsea FC full of hope, only to leave full of doubt. No, this version of Salah was different. Quieter, sharper, more aware of everything the game demanded. Because failure had done something to him. It had stripped away the illusion. There was no shortcut. No easy path. No guarantee. Only work. Relentless, unforgiving work. And as Roma, he rebuilt himself, piece by piece. Not just his game, but his identity. He became faster not just physically, but mentally. His decisions? Instant. His movement? Precise. His finishing? Ruthless. Defenders no longer had time to react. Because Salah wasn't reacting anymore, he was anticipating. And for the first time in his career, he wasn't trying to prove people wrong. He was simply becoming undeniable. Goals started piling up. Assists followed. Performances became consistent, dangerous, elite. But still, there was a gap, a feeling that something wasn't finished yet. Because no matter how good he became in Italy, there was one place that still haunted his story. England. The place where everything fell apart. The place where he was labeled a failure. The place where people stopped believing in him before he ever had the chance to become who he was meant to be. And then, the call came. Liverpool FC. A club with history, with passion, with belief in something bigger than just winning. And more importantly, a manager who saw something others didn't. Jurgen Klopp. Where others saw a former flop, Klopp saw a weapon. And that changed everything. Because for the first time in his career, Salah didn't have to fight for belief. He was given it. Immediately. Completely. But belief alone isn't enough. You still have to deliver. And what happened next? Nobody was ready for. From his very first games at Liverpool, you could feel it. Something was different. The pace. The confidence. The hunger. It wasn't just improvement. It was transformation. Defenders couldn't handle him. They tried to close him down. He was already gone. They tried to predict his movement. He had already changed direction. They tried to stop him. They couldn't. Game after game. Goal after goal. He kept coming. Relentless. Unstoppable. And suddenly, the narrative changed. Not a Chelsea reject. Not a forgotten talent. But something else entirely. A phenomenon. He broke records. Fastest goals. Most goals. Historic numbers. Numbers that didn't just impress, they shocked people. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not to him. The same league that rejected him was now watching him dominate it. And with every goal, every celebration, every moment of brilliance, he was rewriting his story. But just when everything felt perfect, football reminded him that nothing ever is. The Champions League final. The biggest stage in club football. a chance to complete the story, to prove that he truly belonged at the very top. And for a moment, it looked like destiny. But then, everything stopped. A challenge, a fall, pain. Salah hit the ground, holding his shoulder. The stadium went silent. You could see it on his face. Not just the physical pain, but something deeper, something heavier. Because this wasn't just an injury. This was the moment, the one he had worked his entire life for, slipping away right in front of him. He walked off the pitch in tears. Not anger, not frustration, just heartbreak. Because after everything he had been through, every sacrifice, every doubt he had overcome, he still wasn't done. And that's the truth most people don't see. Success doesn't erase struggle. It doesn't close the story. It doesn't make everything feel complete. Sometimes, it just brings you closer to the part you don't understand yet. Because as incredible as Salah had become, as unstoppable as he looked, as dominant as he was, there was still something missing. Something deeper than goals, deeper than trophies, deeper than redemption. And until you understand that, you don't really understand his story at all. Because from the outside, it looked like Mohamed Salah had already made it. The goals, the records, the fame, everything a player could ever want. But inside, there was still something unfinished. Because success doesn't erase what you've been through, it carries it with you. And for Salah, that meant one thing. He wasn't just playing for trophies anymore. He was playing for something bigger. The next season, everything changed. The Champions League returned. Same stage, same pressure. But this time, a different Salah. Calm, focused, unshaken. When the moment came, he didn't hesitate. A penalty, early in the final. He stepped up. No fear, no doubt. Goal. Not just a goal, a statement. Redemption. And when Liverpool FC lifted the trophy, you could feel it. This wasn't just victory. This was closure. But even then, he didn't stop. Because greatness doesn't pause. The following year, Liverpool chased something they hadn't touched in decades. The Premier League title. Game after game, Salah delivered. Goals, assists, moments that changed everything. And when it finally happened, when Liverpool were crowned champions of England, after 30 years, it meant more than just football. Because standing there, at the top of the world, was a boy from a small Egyptian village who once spent hours on buses just to have a chance. And now, he wasn't just representing a club. He was representing millions across Egypt, across Africa, across the entire world. People didn't just see a footballer. They saw a possibility. Because Salah's story wasn't perfect. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't easy. And that's exactly why it mattered. But here's the truth. The part most people miss. Even at the top, even with everything he achieved, the pressure never left. Every season, expectations grew. Every game, eyes were watching. Because when you become a symbol, you don't get to be human anymore. You have to perform. Every time. And yet, he kept going. Year after year. Still scoring. Still delivering. Still proving that what he built wasn't temporary. It was real. And that's what makes his legacy different. Not just the trophies, not just the records, but the journey. Because Salah showed something most people don't realize, that success isn't about never failing. It's about refusing to stay down when everything tells you to. From rejection, to doubt, to heartbreak. He didn't escape it. He used it. And maybe that's why his story feels different. Because deep down, we all understand it. Not the fame, not the trophies, but the struggle. The moments where nothing works. Where people stop believing. Where you start questioning yourself. And the choice you're forced to make, do you give up? Or do you keep going? Even when no one is watching? Salah chose to keep going. And that choice changed everything. So now I want to ask you something. Do you think Salah was always meant to become one of the best players in the world? Or was he created by the moments that almost broke him? And where are you watching this from? Because if this story taught us anything, it's that the next chapter is always more unpredictable than you think. And trust me, the next story you're about to see might be even crazier than this one.